Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Evil Jiminy, Martin, Lobo Reventado, LS, Ari, Chilate, Runi Canary. Hello, everyone. Welcome for our fifth public stream. I will wait a little bit for people to have the time to join, and then we will start the stream. Let me know if you can hear me well, if the mic's not too broken, all of those things. We've had I'm launching for a few minutes left because we've had a stacked New York Open. I had a couple of things to do. Hello, Fass. How are you, mate? Hello, Tom, Moritz. Welcome, everyone. Sound is fine. All right, perfect. Yo, Raphael. Hello, hello. First time viewer here. Bonjour, mon ami. Hello, Mr. Lit Viking. Cool nickname. Nice to see you here. Why free the Haven stream? This is one of the few public stream that I'm doing. I try to do one public stream outside of the Haven, therefore, at least once per month, and depending on market behavior and whatever happens in the market and those kind of things. I think I actually did 2 or 3 over the last 4 weeks. But yeah, it is an addition to the 2 streams I do per week in the Haven crypto data. And we're actually going to be discussing a lot of things that I discussed yesterday. We had a extremely packed stream yesterday in the Haven as we were planning for today, and particularly because we ended up exiting some positions. But yeah, I will be discussing all of that. The plan for the stream is to first discuss Bitcoin, H4 daily, recent detailed updates that I've done for the Haven. I will go through them with you guys. I can discuss my recent trades and how I'm planning or want to position for my next trades on Bitcoin. It's a FOMC week, meaning that most often than not, Bitcoin is my main focus. Even if, with that being said, I actually opened a Sui long on the New York Open. But yeah, so Bitcoin first, we discuss recent trades, main IDs we have, higher time frame perspective, what are my main levels of interests, what I'm seeing mostly, and then if we have more time, we'll do some chat request, obviously. So yeah, Lyon weather is depressing, but at least stream is here. Yeah, the weather has been pretty shit in Lyon. It's getting better. It's getting better starting tomorrow, but don't know about you fast, but long weekend means that I'm getting the fuck away from Lyon. But yeah, this is the kind of weather that makes you stay inside and watch the charts on a week where on paper, I think you should not necessarily spend that much time on the chart until tomorrow evening. Likely better chances to get chopped more than anything, but yeah. So, all right, let's start. I will discuss the H4 chart first. This is a chart that I shared yesterday on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. This was the initial chart from yesterday. Basically, we got yesterday, or during the night between Sunday and Monday, we got the first H4 trend break on Bitcoin ever since mid-80s. And it was a confirmed break for me because it came with the loss of H1 200 EMA on lower time frame, as you can see here. And that was the main trigger for me to consider the trend to be broken and to take a step back basically. For those that might not be aware, when I'm focused on writing trends, when I'm focused on deciding whether the trend has a chance to be defended or it's finally lost or not, what I usually do is that I have 2 main triggers. The first trigger is obviously a close below the trend, and the second trigger is whether the 200 EMA on the time frame -1 is defended or not. What I mean by that is if I'm focused on a daily trend, the trigger for me to consider the trend to be broken would be a daily close below daily trend and H4 200 EMA not defended. In the case of H4, the trigger is therefore a close below H4 trend and H1 200 EMA defended. Lost, sorry, which was the case for the first time yesterday morning. And when I have this the next step for me when I'm writing a trend that the trend is finally broken is to expect the gap fills. What I mean by that is price to retest H4 100 MA or 100 MA and 200 MA. Doesn't matter the time frame. We can see Bitcoin daily example. Pretty much the same story. But yeah, so two ways for the gaps to be filled. It's either the price that catches down with the moving average, or either it's the moving average that catches up with price, which usually means chop fest. When I have the first break of a trend that way, usually what I'm expecting the most is to see some compression between the trend and 100 MA. And eventually, if 100 MA lost, I would be expecting a gap fill to 200 MA and then some compression in between, as we can see on the squigglies yesterday. And yeah, it's everything that we've got. So basically, when I have price sitting between trend and 100 MA, most often than not, my main conclusion is I should not be doing anything. I should wait for extremities, so H4 trend or H4 100 MA to be retested. And the tighter they get, so the smaller the distance between the two, the more I should remain patient and wait for the resolution. So that's the case right now. It's basically what we've got ever since yesterday. We got H4 trend retested yesterday, which was our must reclaim level, as you can see, alongside last week resistance that failed to flip support. That was also a signal of weakness in my opinion. And we've got H4 100 MA tapped for the New York Open. So that's today's update. We can see yesterday that our main IDs were that indeed, as I just told you, first H4 trend break, alongside a failure to flip the local resistance, and therefore that I was mostly expecting chop fest, and H4 gap fills, so H4 100 MA and possibly H4 200 MA retests. And yeah, that's what we got. Cannot be too surprised. I would add that context of a FOMC week made it even more clear to me that I didn't want it to participate that much in that kind of price action. I had written in my journal over the past 3 years, probably 100 of times, do not overtrade early FOMC week. It's the kind of price action that usually tends to be pretty trappy, and I'm shit at trading lower time frame chop fest. I know it's definitely not one of my strengths. I am good at riding trends and I'm capturing gap fills between moving averages when the gaps are big enough. But whenever we are in these kind of situations, this is definitely not my strength. I'm gonna be discussing the daily chart now. And after that, I will go on my H4 recent trading on Bitcoin, and I will discuss things that I'm looking at, things that I could be interested in taking. It's a bit of a heavy chart, a lot of things on the chart, but I will be discussing all of that. I updated it before the stream, sorry. As usual, this is mostly the Haven content that you're seeing, but we're gonna be discussing all of that anyway. I'm actually going to be looking for the post from yesterday so that we can see a little bit what I changed between yesterday and today, basically what has changed and what has made me reconsider some things. So for the daily update, daily chart, same thing. So I just want to show this chart first, forget the text on the right. This is the chart that we worked with and that you probably saw me update on Twitter since early February, basically since we started to lose daily 100 MA, which was, as I just explained for the H4 chart, a potential signal of gap fills to H4 to daily 200 MA and daily 300 MA. So yeah, this is the main ID we've had for the past 3 months now. And the main ID has been daily EMA compression with daily 100 MA as the must break, must reclaim. and must flip now, obviously. And daily 300 MA, the must hold for the compression to be intact with potential deviations above and deviations below. We got the deviation below, we got the deviation above for now, but I'm gonna be discussing all of that. So yeah, keep in mind that this was the main ID, and that's the main ID we've had for quite some time. One of the main reasons it's been a key focus for me is that the EMA compressions on any time frames, but ideally for me on daily, because it's my favorite time frame to swing, have been the most rewarding setups to focus on when it comes to swinging, and particularly when it comes to swinging Bitcoin, mostly because it's a very good way not to overtrade or to sit back until we have any kind of tighter compression, and have some good focuses when it's done. To give you an idea, last year main long, to which I still own 40%, was a daily EMA compression. We can see a lot of similarities with the current price action. This is my wet dream. This is my wet dream of the current Bitcoin situation. So I don't know if we're gonna get it. I don't know if we already have a successful exit of the compression, but it's been the main idea for quite some time. So we'll see how it's gonna develop. Let me find the daily charts. This is not this one. Okay, it's this one. So as you can see, almost on a daily basis, I try to make a detailed update of the main key horizontal levels, if any have changed, the daily trend development, all of that to keep in mind, levels of interest. So as I told you guys, my main idea has been about that daily EMA compression. We have now exited it to the upside, and the main interrogation I've had ever since we started to spend some time back inside the November-February range has been, is it our daily EMA compression exit, or is it just a deviation like the one we had below? Is it another deviation and we're gonna end up back into the compression for some more time? Which, by the way, would not be the end of the world for me. That would actually set up for a even sexier potential swing, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, later in the year, probably heading into the summer. But short term, what interests us is it a deviation, or have we finally exited the daily EMA compression? For me, the main answer to this question is going to be, and I guess I'm not going to be very original, but to me, the main answer to this question is going to resolve around the fact that, do we defend daily trends and the confluence with previous key horizontal level, the very wide orange box you can see here? If that's the case, I will consider ourselves that we exited the daily EMA compression, and if we fail to do so, obviously you get it, more compression, maybe even another type of daily 300 MA. But the main question, the main answer to our question is going to be whether the daily trend is defended or not. Why is that? Mostly because when I'm trading EMA compressions and we have an exit of the compression, the way I see it is we already had quite some time of fairly chop fast, fairly compression. It's less obvious here because we can see that the compression is not perfect compared to what it was end of last year. But basically, as soon as we exit a compression, what you want to see is some trendy behavior. So we want to see daily trend being defended. We already have a tapped of daily 13 EMA, but I think that we could see more retests of it. What makes me think that is the distance we have between daily 13 EMA and daily 32 EMA, which both are the extreme of what I consider to be the trends. And I think we could have some more compression consolidation while daily 30 EMA continues to catch up with price and daily stock continues to reset from overbought to oversold. If post FOMC, we end up with daily trend tighter, with daily stock fully reset, and all of that confluence defended and still acting as support, I would not be surprised if we end up taking a hit into the mid-range and maybe even revisit this region. I don't know if we're gonna have what it takes to to print a new sexy daily trend into a new all-time high. We're definitely not quite there yet, but that would be what I usually consider as a ideal trend development. And I would likely be looking to swing long, or at least scalp my way up like we did recently. So summarize, sorry, it's a bit long, but summary for the daily EMA, the daily picture. Again, I don't think I'm very original with my horizontal levels. I would assume that this range is the same range that everyone has on their charts. Pretty fucking clean, to be honest. These support just as much as the all-time high region and the mid-range. All of that has been extremely clean, so I would assume it's everyone's same range, and therefore I would assume that everyone's and their mothers are watching that box over here, which is 88 up to 92k as a key horizontal level to fight for. I just want to add confluence to this level with the presence of daily 100 MA and daily trend. So again, for me, if we were to see a retest of this entire box during now and next week or whatever, absolutely crucial for Boost to defend that. And if we end up losing daily trends, I would consider this entire price action as a potential deviation, and I would stay cautious about a return into the compression region. But short term, I have no plans yet in compounding this swing long from last year. So I should update that. It's from yesterday updates, but basically still no compounding, no changes. I am waiting for daily stock to be fully reset and daily trend to be tighter with price. But it's something that I'm watching closely. I've been mostly trading lower time frame Bitcoin in this entire February to end of April window, as you're gonna be able to see on the H4 chart right after. But if we start seeing daily trend defended outside of the daily MMA compression, I will be looking for position to hold longer than a few days and compound on this swing long that I still have some running from last year. So yeah, that's my main perspective and thoughts and interrogations and focuses when it comes to Bitcoin daily. Daily trend 88 92k region as a major area of interest. Defend it at the very least. I will consider that we reclaimed our range and that we might see some price action in this region. Fail to defend it, I will be looking for another tap of the daily 300 MA region and some more compression going into June, basically. All right, that's the main perspective for Bitcoin H4 and daily. As usual, if you want to have access to this chart, don't hesitate to go and check the free Telegram public channel that I have, where I shared this chart yesterday actually, and the main focus is to have going into the event. Going into the early week. So don't hesitate to check. You should be able to find the link on my Twitter account. Pierre, do you consider the weekly range reintegration 92-93K or mainly trend continuation? So that's pretty much what I discussed. I think what makes trend price action interesting is the confluence of that range you mentioned and the range low particularly and daily trend. As long as we have this confluence and that both are defended, I think you have a good argument to keep your focus on this region. And I will personally base my overall perspective whether this entire place is defended or not. And that's why you can see the main key horizontal levels. You can see that I have the previous range low from November 24 to February 25, which is basically 88, 92, 89, 92. You see what I mean? And daily trend confluence. So that's the main IDs you can see here. February low, March highs continue to act as resistance. So that's this level. Into chop fest. So that's what we've got so far. These main IDs are from last week. I should maybe update them, but yeah, this is the main IDs that we had recently. All right, so yeah, Short-term, main focus for Bitcoin on H4, the potential for a H4 100 MA, H4 trend compression with H4 100 MA as must hold, lose it, open the door for a gap fill down to the H4 200 MA. It would be a key retest because H4 200 MA is basically daily trend. As you can see, it's in the daily 32 EMA region. So that would be a massive place to defend if we want to stay in that range and if we consider that we have a new daily trend to ride. And H4 trend as must break, must reclaim, with, I believe, a potential gap fill to retest highs from last week if we are able to do so. So yeah, we can move on to the recent Bitcoin trades, and I'm gonna update you guys on what I've been doing. So this has been my main activity in the Haven for our Bitcoin trading. This is and Bitcoin has been the main focus for me. I used to be mostly a shitcoiner, but I've been over since I would say since last October. I would say, yeah, probably less. It's probably more September, but since second semester last year, I've been trying to level up my game on Bitcoin lower time frame trading and just applying the same system that I have on higher time frames, but doing in lower time frames and trying to finally fix some mistake that I used to do over and over again. And I think we've been doing fantastic on Bitcoin lately. So a little bit of self-dick sucking, but yeah, you will pardon me that. Actually, I have another questions. Don't hesitate if you have any questions. I'm yapping a lot, but don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have. May I request a weave chart? Okay, so what I'm gonna do, so okay, these were all the chat requests from last week. We did a lot in the Haven. We are the 0605. I will write it that way so I can trigger the few burgers that might be on the stream. Okay, I'm gonna be discussing Bitcoin rapidly, the recent trades and what I could have in mind next for anyone that can be interested, and then we will do some chat requests for an hour or so, depending on the chat request you guys have. Interestingly, Bitcoin daily above 200 MA, but sold daily below 200 MA for a while. I'm not surprised one bit about that. Let me get back to the daily chart. I'm really, really not surprised about what you said, Alex. So daily 200, when we are in this configuration, when we have post strong trend, wide gaps between daily moving averages, I usually consider that daily 200 MA is going to flatten and we are going to over around it. I actually think this is something that we had written somewhere in the daily 200 MA flat and we over around it. Because this is usually the structure we have post trend when we have EMA compression, we can see end of the last range also. But what you said is that we can see that Bitcoin is above daily 200 MA on the daily while Sol has not. So a few reasons that are pretty obvious for me to that. The first reason is that Bitcoin actually had quite the run compared to most shitcoins. Solana probably one of the very few alts that actually printed a new all-time high during this cycle or last cycle, depending if you consider that we are still in the same cycle or not. I think it's just semantics, it doesn't matter. But yeah, most of alts have been absolutely ravaged compared to Bitcoin. And yeah, we can see that. I mean, if you just look in terms of structures, Sol is basically trading back inside last year range, while Bitcoin is very much not trading in same range than last year. Like it is trading above. It has flipped its support so far. So yeah, obviously structurally it's gonna be different. The ride that even Solana had at the end of last year was not as strong as Bitcoin had. And therefore, obviously, EMA wise, therefore trend wise, the structure is going to be different. But to be honest, I think I think it's even crazier when you look at something like ETH, for example. I think it's even more insane of a daily chart that I think it's even more of an insane daily chart than the Sol one. Yeah. To give you a perspective of why it's insane to me, it's that we have Bitcoin above daily trend, back inside big earlier range, above all moving averages basically, above still defending weekly trend. If TradingView decides to show this, still defending daily trend, basically still quite in good shape. As much as it could compress for much longer instead of sending instantly. Whether you are focused on horizontal levels or trends or both like me, the structure is obviously quite good looking. While at the opposite, for example, while Bitcoin came back above entire daily EMA structure, ETH is trying and has barely reclaimed the same daily downtrend that we've had from December 2024 and 3.5k all the way down to 1.7k April 25, and it's not even, and despite that Bitcoin strength, it cannot even find a way to fill the gap to daily 100 MA at least, which is pretty fucking insane when you think about it. But I mean, you cannot be very surprised, can we? We cannot be very surprised. To me, the main indicator on ETH remains the daily downtrend on ETH BTC. I've been very tempted to take some longs on ETH last week, ETH USDT. Maybe it's been a bit of some revenge trades because I ended up cutting that latest compounding, as you can see, for a loss, basically. We had a very, very, very good short on ETH for the last legs. A first initial compounding that gave 2 targets, and then I tried to give it a third shot, and I ended up having to cut the position manually when it started to close above H4 200 MA. So I've been considering longing ETH recently over the past few days, but every time I decided to do so, I decided to hold back, not necessarily because of the look of the USDT charts. We could have an argument off of Bitcoin strength to see ETH fill the gap to daily 100 MA. So 2.2k, 2.1k. I would not be surprised to see that. But why would I long ETH over Bitcoin while ETH BTC is still in a clear daily downtrend? I will turn into a ETH maxi again and flip some of my Bitcoin exposure into ETH. The day we have the what I used to call the ETH bullish trinity, which is 1, ETH BTC above daily trends, 2, BTC USDT above daily trends, 3, 2 in brackets because if the second point and the third point are basically saying the same thing. If I get these 3 conditions, I will be long ETH again, and I will be having some exposure on ETH, and ideally on ETH ecosystem, probably some things like Aave and those kind of things. But until it's the case, I am not in that position, by the way, but it's from a recent stream also. But yeah, this is my main perspective on ETH. I'm not particularly a doomtard on ETH. I don't care much, to be honest. Whether it's good looking or bad looking, I don't give a fuck. But I would be more than happy to be long ETH if I have these 3 conditions. Let's say that way. And you know what? I'm actually going to put some alerts on ETH BTC chart again. Okay. What is daily trend? So daily trend is 13, 25, 32 EMA, but it doesn't matter. You can use 10, 30. The exact value doesn't matter. It's just to have an idea of short-term trend. So the moving averages you can see on the chart, this is the trend. So 10, 30 EMA, 100 EMA, 200 EMA, 300 EMA. I will say now before we move on, I do not trade crosses. I don't care about crosses. The only way I'm using moving averages is in confluence with horizontal levels, mostly focused on the trend, whether we are above or below. And I'm mostly using bigger moving averages as targets for gap fills. So basically, in the case of daily of EBTC over here, if we were to see daily trend finally broken and flipped, my main target would be a daily 100 EMA retest. If broken, that would be a daily 200 EMA retest, etc., etc. But I'm not a moving averages cross trader, if we can call it that way. Too active to be focused on those kind of things. Do you leave listing orders, or do you wait to see what the price action context, etc., is when price come into trend or price level? So it's extremely dependent of the retest in itself. I will give you two examples. It's actually a very good question, Rooney Canary. It gives me a transition to our Bitcoin H4 plans short term. If I can find the charts, I have many charts. They are very messy, but yeah. So this is what we discussed yesterday on stream. The stream was around New York Open, pretty much same time than the one we have now. Actually, I started it at this exact time yesterday. And we had two main ideas, and it's gonna answer your question, Rooney Canary. So, okay, before I start that, I will just explain. So this was our latest compounding from last week. This was a compounding on a H1 200 EMA retest with a deviation below H4 trend. If you listened at the beginning of the stream, I said that to me, to consider a trend to be broken, I had two triggers, close below plus 200 EMA being lost. So when I have a deviation below the trend with a 200 EMA retest, this can constitute a setup, especially if we have good context. In this context, in this case, that H1 200 EMA retest happened for New York Open, and it happened while SPX was also retesting H1 200 EMA. So that was a nice confluence to pull the trigger, and especially because we had it planned on stream the day before. So that was an automatic, okay, you know what, let's give it a shot. We pay ourselves at the retest of the recent target. We have this region as next target, and eventually I ended up taking manually some off at 97.2k. So that was the trigger for the latest compounding that we took, H1 200 EMA retest in confluence with SPX retesting H1 200 EMA. And it was a last shot for bulls to play, because a break of H1 200 EMA would have been a H4 trend break for me, as I made it clear now, I think. So yeah, pretty nice compounding, but yesterday we got H4 close below trend and H1 200 EMA lost, as you can see here. Therefore, the rest of the compounding was exited, and I've been flat ever since on Bitcoin for the first time since early April, basically. But it kind of made sense for me. I did not fight it, mostly because I knew it's FOMC week, and as I said at the beginning of the stream, I have hundreds entries in my journal saying do not overtrade early FOMC week. Wait for the event to happen and trade into it or after it, depending on whatever we have. So nice timing, but unfortunately I would have preferred to have my last target hit, obviously, but it is or it is. I'm trying to find for you. Yeah. This was the update in the event where decided to front run my 97.2 target, my mid-range target, by taking some off manually at 97.2. The main reason was simply it's been a very good trade. We got a Pico entry. I love money, I love profit, so let's secure some. It ended up being a local top, which is pure luck. Not gonna pretend otherwise, obviously. So that's the explanation why you can see that the trade has been off of there. And yeah, yesterday we had two IDs. because the main thing we were expecting to see was a H4 trend, H4 100 MA compression. The two main ideas were either a long off of H4 100 MA retests, either a long on H4 200 MA retest. But as you can see, I don't know if you can read properly, but and to answer Rooney's question, you can see that I said I wouldn't set bids. I would prefer to play it manually. So that's what I say also at the beginning. I would play it the same way we played last week, H1 200 MA long, meaning no bid set, play it manually depending on reaction, plus context. So it's exactly what you asked, Ronnie. In that particular example, no bid set, mostly willing to let the retest happen, and depending on the reaction plus context, so whatever SPX is doing or whatever we have external news, or if we're expecting US data to be released before, or if US data just got released, those kind of things that can impact market short term. But most often than not, it's New York open window. Then we play it. And I ended up not playing it. You can see that I did not trigger the long that we discussed yesterday, despite H4 100 MA being retested. I will explain why in a minute. So that was the first idea. And the second one was exactly the same idea. But instead of H4 100 MA, that would be H4 200 MA. And it would basically be let the retest happen. And if we end up defending H4 200 MA closing above, use any potential deviation below as your invalidation, adjust the size and risk off of it, and then target one would be H4 100 MA, target two would be the retest of local highs, etc., etc. You have all the details on this chart, which I believe I shared somewhere. I'm not quite sure I shared that on Discord. I think I shared it on Twitter yesterday. So yeah, these were the two main ideas yesterday. But eventually today, we got the H4 100 MA retest, and I decided not to take it. The main justification for that is if I took the H4 100 MA long, my first main target would have been a H4 trend retest, which is getting lower and lower. We can see that H4 13 EMA is at 94.5. It got tapped post New York Open. I didn't want it because FOMC is in 24 hours. I didn't want it to have a new Bitcoin position to manage going into it for such a small move to capture. And I usually, when we start getting this kind of compression, I usually like to play the exit of the compression itself more than the retest of both. So that's why you can see now that I have updated the next potential plays. So the first potential play would be a H4 trend, H4 100 MA compression resolution. So that's these two black squigglies. So basically, whether H4 trend breaks first or H4 100 MA breaks first. Ideally, we get more compression between H4 trend and H4 100 MA heading into FOMC tomorrow. And FOMC is enough of a catalyst to have an exit of the compression. And exit to the upside, I would like to trigger that long, use H4 100 MA as an invalidation, and obviously the opposite side for the short. Why would I prefer that setup to bidding H4 100 MA here? The main reason is that as H4 100 MA is going to catch up with H4 trends, both of them are going to be tight as fuck, and the tighter they have, the smaller my invalidation is, or the tighter I can have my invalidation, meaning that better risk reward. I can size less expecting similar returns. So yeah, that's why I like it more. Context, I would say, with FOMC around the corner, I have no idea if it's going to be a significant FOMC or if it's going to be nothing burger. But still, I think I would be more inclined to chase a H4 100 MA, H4 trend compression exit, whether it's to the upside or the downside, obviously, than trying to position myself in between the two. So yeah, you have my main ideas going into FOMC tomorrow. So no changes in the way I would approach a H4 200 MA retest. I will let the retest happen first and position myself if it's defended. Also, obviously, depending on what SPX is doing in parallel, it goes without saying. And otherwise, an exit compression. Do you size depending on the moving average tapped? Nope. No. What I could say though is I noticed that the steeper the moving average is when it's retested, so the steeper, the higher the chance it's defended, the flatter, the less the chance it's defended. And I guess it makes perfect sense as a trend indicator. If it's flat, it means there is no trend. If it's steep, descending or ascending, it means there is a trend to defend. So it makes sense that the steeper, the more defense. But no, I don't size differently depending on what moving averages is tapped or not. But for example, in that, if we were to see that H4 200 MA retest, I'm not saying we're gonna get it. I have absolutely no idea. But if we were to get it, it would be more important that this H4 100 MA retest, because H4 200 MA is basically daily trend. It's the same region. And if you remember the daily analysis that we shared a few minutes ago, we said that the difference between daily MA compression exit or deviation would be defending daily trend or not. So if/when we get a H4 200 MA retest, I might size up more than on this setup over here, mostly because it would feel like a very crucial moment for bulls, basically. And I guess it answers a little bit more also Rooney Canary question, as it would be a bigger context to fight for. Again, not definitive setups. For now, there are only ideas. I'm saying that because the values you see here as entry and stop loss are not definitive. They will be adjusted depending on how things are developing. And because it's things that I'm willing to take manually, I also take the risk that I miss them, especially considering that we have a long weekend incoming again in France, and I will be back in south of France from Wednesday evening. So it's basically for New York Open, for FOMC. I will try to keep an eye on the market, but I don't know if I will be able to execute ideas that I have. However, as usual, I would rather spend more time planning the setups that I want to take, even if I end up missing them, so that I'm prepared to whatever could come, than just not being prepared and end up being bullied for nothing. So that's the reason I'm spending that time early week to plan and try to have in mind what kind of setups I would be willing to take. I would add one last thing and then promised I'm done speaking about Bitcoin. If we break H4 100 MA, there is obviously the gap fill to H4 200 MA, which could be an interesting short. But I feel like if that was to happen, I would be more interested in aggressively shorting weaker alts, which for me is things that, despite Bitcoin strength, has not been able to break daily downtrend and has been showing very weakness. I would be more inclined to try and catch a small leg down on weak shitcoins than try to capture the move down to H4 200 MA. But again, we'll see if/when. For now, we are still very much fighting in the H4 EMA compression. If your normal size is 100, how much more would you size at the top of daily 200 MA? Again, maybe you wanted to say H4 200 MA, not daily 200 MA, because daily 200 MA is flat and is not the focus for now. Okay, so to retake your question, if my normal size is 100, this setup would probably be 25 to 50, and this setup would be 50 to 75, because I'm a pussy. No, but more seriously, because as I said, I'm likely to be AFK for the rest of the week. If I enter positions, even if on paper, as soon as you enter the position, you either get your targets or you're being kicked out, right? But to feel more comfortable with things running in the background while I am AFK, I will likely size down. But I would put more risk into that setup than this one. I would see this one more as a continuation of us riding longs since the low 80s. And I would see this one as a potential basis for a swing, a bigger trade. Because again, H4 200 EMA retest would mean that we have a daily trend retest plus 89, 91k retests, which both are massive confluences. And therefore could be, if defended, a base for a bigger trade after that. This could be my first entry, for example, on a potential swing on our Bitcoin swing from last year. But again, for now, I know I have these plans. Let's keep our focus on the next 24 hours of price action and whether we get more compression, an exit of the compression, H4 200 MA, and we will adapt off of that. I like to have plans depending on the main outcomes I have in mind, but I try not to play the game of anticipating the next 2 months of price action, because I find absolutely nothing actionable off of it. I think it's very fun to do so. I think for a analysis point of view and to exchange ideas, it's interesting, obviously. But when it comes to planning my trades, if it's not delivering something actionable for me, I just don't focus on it. Which is why you could think that it's very complicated what you see on the chart, but it's really not. There is a lot of drawings because a lot of people are studying the setups that I share and sometimes following them. So I'm trying to add as much information that can explain why such a block is here, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, it's just a couple of horizontal lines. All right. I think you know it all, for Bitcoin at least. What I'm looking at on daily, what I'm looking at on H4, what are the next trades that I would be considering and why. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to share all of those charts in the Telegram channel at the end of the stream, so you can have access to the charts that I'm discussing today if you want to take a look at them again or not. And then we can move on to chat requests. I've been speaking a lot about Bitcoin, but again, I think short term, it's probably the main focus you should have going into tomorrow. I'm not saying that there are no opportunities on shitcoins. I'm just saying that if you plan on trading Bitcoin into FOMC, maybe it's a good time to have things clear in your mind of what you would want to do. And this actually gives me another transition for tomorrow evening, something that I also share very often in the Haven every time we have FOMC. So that's our detailed updates. The main focus is for the day, as I do every day. Okay, this post. Yeah, every time we have FOMC, it's important to keep in mind that FOMC usually comes in several waves of volatility. You don't only have the volatility off of the rate decision. Very often we have a first spike of volatility off of the rate decision, obviously, but very often, at least for the last few FOMC, Powell speech has been the biggest catalyst, and eventually market digestion. So I think it's important to keep these in mind, the fact that there is 3 waves of volatility for FOMC if you want to trade FOMC, because I think you can make plans off of it. For example, if on the rate decision we end up having some sort of a spike up or down, a wick created, you want to see if that wick is being retested, defended or not during Powell's speech, and it might give you a hint of the market reaction and direction it's gonna pick post FOMC. I'm not saying it's a 100% backtested strategy, just keep that in mind for FOMC tomorrow. And don't go too hard on the first market reaction of the rate decision very often. And I would say even more lately, considering all the talks about Trump wanting to fire Powell and all of that. Tomorrow's Powell speech could be interesting, therefore, obviously. Okay, let me put some alerts on Bitcoin above H4 trend, below H4 100 MA and today's lows. It's only if one of those alerts are triggered that I could consider taking another trade today. Talking about context, I took that Bitcoin long off of SUI long off of New York Open. Very basic thought process. It retested H4 100 MA in previous lows, while Bitcoin retested H4 100 MA also going into New York Open. Therefore, enough of a trigger to give a gamble. But that's the only thing I opened. I hesitated between this SUI H4 100 MA long and between FART H4 100 MA retest also. I decided to go for SUI because it was looking a little bit cleaner to me, but not big size. Considering again context of pre-FOMC, I only entered a quarter of the size, so 25 if we stay in the Alex question earlier. But yeah, just wanted to share that I took that also. I think WIF has the same trade catalyst as SUI. Okay, so let's take a look at WIF. I charted WIF recently. Yeah, WIF has been a fantastic display of the system. As earlier, I told you guys that I was mainly using big moving averages as targets for gap fills when we break trends, and WIF is a fantastic example of that. As you can see, strong daily downtrend, the same one since 3.15. Jesus. Same daily downtrend from 3.15 all the way down to 0.40. Finally, daily trend breaks, fills the gap to daily 100 MA, and then daily trend, daily 100 MA compression. Very clean. And yeah, that's been, that was the main idea. I can remove some drawings now to make things a little bit cleaner. But I think this remains the main idea for WIF, daily trend, daily 100 MA compression. And basically you wait to see which one breaks first. I think there is still these highs that could be taken. Daily 200 MA would be the next immediate gap fill to focus on, but it's quite wide. It's quite big still. But yeah, I guess this would be the main gap fill to the upside. This would be the full retrace as a gap fill to the downside if the market shits the bed, basically. So that would be for the daily picture. But we're gonna take a look at H4 for you, Progony. Sorry, I'm probably butchering your nickname. I think WIF has the same trade catalyst as SUI, at least similar, missing some levels. No, it's not really the same story. The main difference being that it's retesting H4 200 MA after losing H4 100 MA. Actually, it's a key test for WIF right now. Again, if you remember what I discussed through the stream, when I want to judge if a trend is lost or not, I check 200 EMA on the time frame below. Meaning that if we are focused on the daily trend on WIF right now, and you want to see if the daily trend is in danger or not, you need to check H4 200 EMA. And yeah. No, to me, it's really not like Sui. I'm not saying it's not interesting, but it's a different context than Sui. And yeah, the main idea for me, it's a no trade unless you cut H4 200 EMA entry over here, and therefore you want to pay yourself in that region. Retest of H4 trend plus fairly obvious horizontal level. I don't think I need to explain why it's a key horizontal. Yeah, I think the main trades I could see on WIF short term. So that's H4 100 EMA projection, H4 trends. Okay, so two main trades I could see. The first one, let's imagine that you did not catch that entry, obviously, that you did not catch the H4 200 EMA retest. I think this is a long if we have a H4 100 EMA plus H4 trend reclaim. So basically, if it manages to get back above the confluence of horizontal level plus H4 trend and H4 100 EMA, I can write it down if you want. Confluence of H4 trend x H4 100 EMA x key H4 horizontal level equals must break / reclaim. Oops. And if we do so, I think you can have at least a leg to this level. And I think you want to pay yourself if it gets over here. But unfortunately, if market's weak and we've shits the bed, to me, there is a short on the loss of H4 100, 200 EMA, obviously. So my main analysis of WIF right now is that I would not trade it in this zone. No trade in between. And actually, I'm going to put an alert below today's lows because I said that in a context where Bitcoin was shitting the bed and rolling over down to H4 200 EMA, I would be willing to short shitcoins. I feel like I want to short WIF if it loses H4 200 EMA. Because if Bitcoin doesn't defend daily trends and we end up going back in daily EMA compression, I think you can have a swing short to ride on WIF all the way back to the lows. But short term, let's not think too far ahead. Short term, I think if I can give you two main levels to focus on, the first one is H4 200 EMA, which at 0.52, and the second one is the 0.56 up to 0.57 region. That is a must break / reclaim confluence of H4 100 EMA, H4 trend, key horizontal level. Putting some circles to make things a little bit more obvious, but I guess it's pretty straightforward. This could be the setup. Obviously, again, not definitive setup, just to give you an idea. This could be something. This could be two setups I could be interested to take. So I set alerts, and then we wait to see what gets retested first or not. When are you going live with team? I'm going live with team in 2 hours and a half. 8 p.m. CET, 6 p.m. UTC, if I'm not mistaken. Pierre, have you ever considered managing fund for external LP, or do you just trade price action? No. No. I'm trying my best to win alone for me by myself, which is already a hard enough thing to do. Eventually, maybe later in my career, if I'm still successful and if I still want to do that, maybe that could be considered. but short term, I'm mostly trading for myself and trying my best to do it well. Which again is already a complicated enough thing to do with your own money, so let alone do so for external funds. Some people are much more based to do so than me, I would say. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin as it continues to develop. Okay, it's coming for H4 trend retest right now. It's a key fight. It's a very key fight. I think this fight we are seeing right now is what separates us from more chop fest, as I said, or a potential tap of 96.5, 97.5 before FOMC. So yeah, it's a big fight. It's a big fight. I would love for it to be enough for Sui to give us target 1. But yeah, shitcoins are not having the best reaction off of Bitcoin strength right now, which makes sense. Again, everyone is, in my opinion, waiting for tomorrow evening. Yeah, I'm still taking chart requests for the next 25 minutes. I can do Fatcoin if you want. I will have to clean up my chart though, because it's a really messy one. But yeah, keep an eye on that fight on Bitcoin right now. 94.5 all the way up to 95.5 is the key place to fight for, in my opinion, on H4 and on H4 time frame. Sorry, I need to check something. Okay, I'm gonna set some alerts in all the way up to 1820 on ETH. Okay. Are there any altcoins in specific you're looking to get some long exposure this year, eyeing hype plus pendle? That's not really how I trade. I don't hold anything unless I'm in a setup, basically. What I mean by that is I don't believe in the holding spot narrative. I think it's a very misunderstood concept and very poorly applied approach. I think it's a good approach. I just think it's very often wrongly executed. I think too many people think that because they are buying spot and cannot get liquidated, they don't need to have an exit strategy, they don't need to have a plan, and they end up bag holding things for entire cycles. But because I spend 15 hours per day on the market, I feel like I can afford to navigate through the markets and either be in a position. I would say it that way. My standard position is fiat, and it's being flat. And I either have a setup I'm long in, like our Bitcoin string from last year, where I still have some exposure because it's not invalidated. Either I'm flat. So, and it's true for the rest of market. So if we think about hype, for example, I could be considering building some long exposure, especially as we are seeing a key fight for hype on the daily charts. I think actually that I have a better looking one. Yeah, this is my main ideas for hype. I think it's a very important fight that we are seeing right now for the 1921 level. And I could be interested to have a long exposure on hype based off of that fight that we are seeing and based off of a new daily trend to ride. But do I know if that's something I would be expecting to hold for a long time during the year? I don't know. I would be, if I'm longing hype daily trend retests, I will stay long as the daily trend is defended. Will it be for 2 weeks or will it be for 5 months? I don't know. But that's more how I'm seeing things, and a little bit regardless to the fundamental analysis in itself. I'm a gambler. I'm a professional gambler, not a fundamental analyst. I am mostly focused on narratives and trends, but I think hype can tick all the boxes. I think it has a lot of mind share. I think it has the potential to do great, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be something that remains true for the entire year, or if that's something that's gonna fade away. But for sure, I will be interested in looking at um, trading it off of daily trend. And actually, that's what I wrote on the right side here. Next ideal setup, daily trend defended plus 2021 flipped. Ideally, I want to see daily trend. What's holding me back from entering now is a little bit like Bitcoin daily. If you remember what we said, I said that I wanted, as an ideal development, I wanted to see daily trend catching up with the rest of the trend and price so that things can be tighter, because we still have a gap between 13 EMA and 32 EMA. And it's a similar thing that we are seeing right now for hype on daily. As you can see, I think daily trend could catch up a little bit more with price. And the argument is simple. The tighter the compression, the higher daily trend is, the tighter I can have my invalidation. If I was to enter now, I would need to have my invalidation below daily trend, and it's a very wide one. If daily trend catches up with price and this horizontal level, I will be able to tighten the setup much more, making it infinitely more appealing to me. When you say daily, are you using the daily 100 MA, daily 200 MA? Invalidation would be losing both. No, I discussed that already through the stream. When I consider the trend, no. If I say invalidation is loss of daily trend, it means that would mean a daily close below daily trend and H4 200 DMA not defended. Daily trend is not 100 MA, 200 DMA, it's the small ones you can see close to the price. If you want more information about that, MDog, I let you go back a little bit in the stream. I discussed a lot, particularly I would say from minute 44 or yeah, 30 minutes ago. If you go back 30 minutes ago in the stream, you will see me discussing Bitcoin potential trades, and I discussed the way I was approaching and seeing invalidations for trends and things like this. What do you think of Pengu? Is this a coin we might want to buy spot? Again, I just answered that. If it's above daily trend, it's a coin I'm willing to trade. If it's below daily trend, I'm not interested. But I don't have a point of view. In terms of fundamentals. And I don't know enough the project to tell you. But if it was to keep printing the daily trend that it's been printing, I would be more than interested to trade Pengu for sure. Would I say that I believe it's something that has fundamental value, considering it's a meme coin attached to NFT? I don't know. I won't pretend that I have the understanding of the NFT landscape to have a definite opinion on that. All I know is if it's trendy and it has a narrative, I will be trading it. Like everything. I mean, I built myself trading absolute trash on UOB in 2019, 2018. So I'm not gonna be the one that tells you, oh, you're trading meme coin, it's a bad thing. Who fucking cares? If it moves and it has a narratives, whatever, then it's good enough for me to trade it. Okay, so let's do. I'm actually going to share this hype chart. I will just precise that I need to do it every time I share a chart, because I don't want people to think it's a definitive setup. Not definitive setup. Just an idea for now. Up. Let's do Fatcoin. Let's do OM. OM is going to be funny because we absolutely slayed OM at the beginning of the year, but completely lost the entire breakdown, unfortunately. OM, we can do ENA, which looks like shit in my memories. And that would be nice because we have 15 minutes left. So if we can do these three for the next 15 minutes, that would be perfect. And I will not be taking more chat requests for the rest of the stream. I feel like the most important part of the stream was for us to discuss Bitcoin H4 and daily perspective and ideas of trades to take going for the rest of the week. And most importantly, the focuses that I believe you need to have short term, which I will say it again, is H4 trend must reclaim break, H4 100 MA must hold. EMA wise, it's complicated to make something more respected than that. So if it's respected, it's a good focus. If it's a good focus, we keep it. All right, Fatcoin. I'm gonna have to clean that chart because we traded Fatcoin a lot also lately. Or maybe I can take another chart. Nice. The stream is appreciated for sure. Yeah, with pleasure, lads. With pleasure. It's something I actually do very often. Not particularly in public. It's only the 5th stream public, but it's something I do a lot. It's something I do a lot in the oven. I usually stream 2 times per week in the oven. Unfortunately, not this week because, as I said, I'm going to be AFK from tomorrow evening, but I will catch up with that. But yeah, what I like the most about streaming is there are 2 things that I find really interesting when we are streaming. The first one is obviously the chat requests. I think it's interesting for members because they can have my opinion on how I'm seeing things. And actually, I try to be detailed in the chat request that I do on stream as much as I can, at least. Oh, layer. Lol. But yeah, it's a very good way for me to build lists, basically, because it's very easy to end up only trading the same things and end up with the same watch list and miss new small narratives of things moving, while members tend to ask me chat requests because they see those things moving or they are interested in those things, and they can be therefore interesting for me too. So I think that's the first interesting part of those chat requests. But I think it's also very interesting for me to stream because it's a very good opportunity to explain a little bit more trades before we take them and why we plan them and how I would approach them, much more than just posting the setup and say, okay, I'm longing that. As much as it's interesting for some people, I find more values discussing the reasoning behind into the execution or into deciding not to take it, obviously. So yeah, I stream a lot and I will be streaming a lot this year. I will do much more public stream like this one. My goal is to do at least one, but if I can do more than that, I will do more than that for sure. For sure. Damn, that's a lot of yapping. Let's get into Fatcoin. So yeah, as I said, we traded Fatcoin a lot over the past month or so. Mostly because, as I said, for Pengu, I don't care what it is. I don't care what I don't care what the asset is. If it's moving and if it has narratives, then I trade it. And obviously, therefore, Fatcoin has been on top of the lists in terms of things that moved lately and that has been interesting to trade. I think it's been very cool because it respected the system a lot. It's been very trendy. But yeah, do I have a chart that has as much price history as the CoinX1? Okay, it seems like it's the case. Yeah, that was some longs from end of last year. Beginning of the year actually. Okay, anyway, Fatcoin, yeah, it's one that I hesitated too long earlier today. If you remember, I said that at New York Open, when we had Bitcoin retesting H4 100 MA, I decided to long SUI because it was retesting H4 100 MA. But I was hesitating, sorry, between Fatcoin, TAO, which was also near H4 100 MA, or Fatcoin. These were the three I was really hesitant. I ended up going for SUI, mostly because of the structure you can see right now with H4 trend, H4 100 MA being compressed. That should remind you of something because it's pretty much what we are seeing on Bitcoin also. And if you remember, I said that I did not long the H4 100 MA earlier on Bitcoin, mostly because it's too compressed. I would rather wait for it to break the compression. And it's been the same reasoning for Fatcoin. I would rather wait for this compression right now to be over and just respect the direction that's picked. And that's what I'm going to highlight for you guys right now. Okay. When I see a chart like this, let's map out the main moving averages, our main levels of interest. This is H4 100 MA, so that you guys can understand a little bit more if you are not familiar with my charts. And that's H4 300 MA. And I need to put the text up because it's triggering me right now. I've noticed that since the beginning of the stream. Okay, so this is our must hold, H4 100 MA. It's also confluence with a not ideal, but somewhat of a horizontal level. And we have H4 200 MA, which is in perfect confluence with this previous resistance over here. So that would make a very good level to focus on. The confluence of both would be fantastic. Okay, I will make things right, which means I need to put that on the bottom. This has been a key resistance, and it's now in confluence with daily H4 200 MS. So if that was to be retested, it would be a crucial place to defend. And over here we have the compression between H4 trend and H4 100 MA. So I believe you can have this horizontal over here that acted as a strong resistance since the beginning of the week, since Sunday actually, as a must break, meaning that if you have H4 100 MA defended plus H4 trend reclaimed and flipping back up, you have an argument for a long and some continuation over here. If you remember what I said about hype, I said on hype that this is the price. I wanted to see daily trend catching up with price so that I could have a much tighter invalidation than based on the daily trend itself. It would be the same thing here for Fatcoin. If we have some more compression over here with H4 100 MA that's still defended, and we end up having a break of this region, my setup will look much tighter. It would look like this with H4 100 MA as an invalidation. This is something I could see myself taking. I would very likely have a target one, probably in this region over here, that I would likely want to front run, and eventually I would have a target to, again, a pretty tight one for Fatcoin standards. This would be the long setup that I would be fine taking. I'm gonna set some alerts above local highs, see if it's retested. And obviously, if we have a H4 trend acting as resistance, plus confluence of H4 100 MA and horizontal level lost, I will be aiming for a gap fill down to H4 200 MA. Which I could see happening if Bitcoin does the same itself. we talked about context earlier with Rooney's question. For example, if I have this region retested while Bitcoin is retesting H4 200 MA itself, I'm gonna long it. I'm gonna give it a shot just because of the confluence. I would be much more inclined to beat that retest alongside a Bitcoin H4 200 MA retest than long it while Bitcoin is not at H4 200 MA itself. Any promo codes for the Haven? I don't think so. I'm sorry, M-Dog. Yeah, this stream is golden. Subscribe. Love to read that. Love to hear that, Mr. Lead Viking. However, M-Dog, there is a slightly cheaper option for the Haven that doesn't get you access to the Discord itself first, but you have access to the entire educational content from all analysts since we launched the Haven, and it's a place where you have access to all the educational content I've been producing over the last few years. That explain a shitload of my system, and that I think can be a very first good introduction, a very good first way to see if there are things you can learn and integrate off of our systems, and if after that you're interested, you can decide to join on the full version, obviously. But yeah, maybe you can consider that. But yeah. Okay, so Fatcoin, this would be the long. Maybe I can add a little bit more context for you guys. Next potential trades. Long on a H4 100 made defense plus H4 trend reclaim. And basically, I think it's the 1.13. I would put this sign to say it's not pico precise, but that gives you an idea of the area. Break. Invalidation would be failure to hold H4 above H4 trend and H4 100 MA. Therefore, SL below this confluence, and then it's up to you to decide the perfect value of your stop loss, obviously. Targets highlighted on charts. ID would be to have alpha feed taken off by T2 and then write the rest as high as H4 trend goes, which is a very classic in the way I'm approaching. It's a very classic in the way I'm approaching my setups in those kind of example. And the second one would be a short on a H4 100 MA loss plus H4 trend acting resistance, aiming for H4 200 MA gap fill. H4 200 MA currently in confluence with key horizontal resistance, must flip support, making it a very good focus to have. Invalidation would be H4 close back above H4 100 MA and H4 trends. The opposite invalidation of the long idea explained above, and therefore target would be H4 200 MA wherever it is. I say wherever it is because obviously it's a moving average. It's gonna keep climbing up. But yeah, okay. And this zone, this entire block can likely be called no trade zone. A little bit like, again, the Bitcoin, the same Bitcoin compression that I discussed earlier. Okay. That's for Fatcoin. OM. This reminds me of the Luna chart. But yeah, as you can see, we traded OM a lot beginning of the year. Initially got wicked out quite brutally But it was a shit trade, to be honest. That was a very bad trade. But the rest was pretty nice, and it's a good example of how I'm riding trends on the way up. But yeah, who asked me for OM? Kundai Power? I'm not quite sure what you're expecting me to tell you, mates. I guess what I can give you is that if you're considering playing any kind of long side on OM, at least wait for the H4 downtrend to be broken. It's been the same one since the crash, basically, and it's been very well respected on the way down. If you have an H4 trend break, you can aim for a gap fill to H4 100 MA. But yeah, my main point of view on OM is that it's been very fun while it lasted. It's been the best mover of the entire cycle, I would say. I think a painful stat is probably that despite the crash, OM has been infinitely outperforming ETH over the last 3 years, still to these prices. Oops. Ah, fuck. When was let's say our bottom was in September 2023. Yeah. It's crazy to think that post bull cycle you would still outperform holding ETH if you held something that just literally crashed 90%. But I guess it's not a really fair comparison, to be honest. I'm being mean to ETH because obviously it's much easier to move a Ponzi than ETH. But yeah, so Kunda Pawai, yeah, I would be careful with people selling you opium on this one. But if I had to have a long trigger for OM short term, it would be a H4 close above H4 trend, and then I think you could have a gap fill play. Keep in mind the weave chart that we discussed earlier. With trend broken, aim for the gap fill to 100 MA. You could have a similar thought process on H4 if/when it manages to break the H4 downtrend. But until that's the case, maybe keeping the green button is forbidden. Unfortunately, I don't have much to discuss for you on this one. I'm not gonna have time to take the 3 last one you asked, Angelus, because I still need to do ENA, and I was supposed to shut the stream off already. So I'm sorry, but I won't be able to do this chat request for you, lads. ENA, in my memories, it looks like shit, and I'm very mad at myself for not shorting it. Because, yeah, it's been doing pretty much what I had in mind, but I did not execute shit, so pointless analysis, isn't it? It's nice to draw sweet lines on the chart, but no, I cannot, Angelus, I'm sorry. I should have closed the stream 3 minutes ago. So I'm doing this one and then I'm leaving. I'm very sorry, mate. Fuck it. I will do RPL, but that's it. Simply because it's gonna be a fast one for ENA. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy the way. If you remember at the beginning of the stream, we discussed about, I think it was a question from Alex that said that it was pretty crazy to see sold below daily 200 EMA, while Bitcoin was so much above, and etc. And I think this inner chart is a perfect representation of the state of shitcoins over the past few years. Is that this is not a random shitcoin. This is a shitcoin that had a narrative, that has a big backing, and that could therefore see some interest. And yet it's already retesting the lows that were printed while Bitcoin was retesting 74K. While Bitcoin is fighting to reclaim a resistance right now, which is, that's why I'm mad at myself for not being short on this one. I should have been short, and the short I should have caught, and I no excuses not to catch it, was this one. H4 trend broken, H4 200 EMA lost, come for H4 100 EMA retest, bounce back into H4 trend plus H4 200 EMA. This was an automatic short, and I should have caught that. So I'm pretty mad at myself for it. But with that being said, let's do some drawings the same way we did for the shitcoins before. So that's daily 200, that's daily 100 EMA, sorry. That we can see is very steep, very descending. And again, if you remember earlier, I said that the steeper the moving average is, the more I was expecting it to be defended or respected at least. Meaning that if/when daily 100 EMA was to be retested and it was still that steep, that would be the obvious target to have and to respect. In terms of horizontal levels, I guess, yeah, we have this horizontal level that we had on the chart before deleting things. It feels a little bit late to short that. As I discussed, I think the short was on the failure to hold daily trend and retest from below in this region. There is two things that I can see for NR right now. The two main things I have in mind is daily downtrend, new daily downtrend. And basically we come for the retest, we lose this level and we keep dipping. Or bottom formation in this region, which was a key level in 2024. And we end up with a non-respected daily trend. So no trend on the daily with this kind of price action. And while daily 100 EMA catches down with price like this and flattens while it's bottoming basically. But besides shorting it, nothing that I'm interested in. So I will write down things. Main IDs. One, failure, flip daily trend into daily downtrend continuation. Opportunity here would be on a daily trend X 0.25, 0.27, 28 retest from below. So imagine in the next few weeks we have daily trend that's here and we have a retest like this of key horizontal level plus daily downtrend. It would be a good short setup because you have a confluence to use as an invalidation, meaning that if you short that retest, your invalidation would be break of the daily downtrend plus reclaim of the horizontal level. So that could be a first long. Does anyone know when were the last Trump buys of that thing? just for the lulz. I think it was at this time, wasn't it? So yeah, main things I have in mind: a potential short aiming for a retest of the lows printed in 2024, but that would really feel like shorting a macro bottom, doesn't it? So probably not going to be taking that, but otherwise some longer period of consolidation while daily 100 MA and daily 200 MA catch down with price and flatten, and then advient que pourra, as we say. So can't remember who asked for ENA. That was Mr. Lead Viking. So that's the case for the daily. Maybe we can take a look at lower time frame to see if there is something that we could think about in terms of actionable setup. But by the look of the daily chart, I know that it's probably going to be a similar conclusion in the sense that yeah, it's at the lows, and you probably want to focus on the trend retest. I guess you could have an argument for a actionable setup if, for example, we have some Bitcoin weakness. So Bitcoin weakness, sorry, in current situation would be the loss of H4 100 MA. If you've been listening to the stream, I hope that's obvious because it's our must hold, right? So maybe you could have an argument off of this block over here. You could have an argument for obviously a short continuation on the H4 downtrend, or long if we have some strength and a reclaim of the confluence of H4 trend plus this previous support. Then you could have an argument for a gap fill play on H4, aiming for this confluence over here of moving averages, which by the time should be in this region over here. Extremely likely that I'm interested to take that, unless it comes with a bullish news and a catalyst. I feel like if I'm willing to long that, I should probably just long Bitcoin. But yeah, could be both of these ideas, but yeah, could be ideas, but I don't feel like I would be particularly interested trading that. I have a question from Rooney that I missed. I'm sorry, mate. If taking a trade on H4, I think that was when we were discussing Fatcoin. So let me get back to the Fatcoin charts. And actually, we've got our H4 close, so we're gonna check the way it looks on Bitcoin. Do we have any news? Trump is doing a Justin Sun classic announcement of announcement. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny to see him pull a Justin Sun trick. So the question was, if taking a trade on H4, for example, H4 100 MA, retesting the H4 trend, so I guess it's more this one that you're talking about, would it matter to you if the H1 trend, resistance pretty much since 97K? Okay, so you're actually talking about Bitcoin. I have too many charts, man. I'm lost. Okay. Would it matter for you if H1 trend is in between, or would you just focus on the H4? If I take a setup on H4, the only other thing I would be watching would be H1 200 EMA. But beside that, I would keep my focus mostly on H4. Yeah, that's the answer in my opinion. I would keep my focus. If we end up having the compression I mentioned, it's extremely likely that it's coming with compression on H1 also. It usually go hands in hands. But yeah, we have a big fight for that H4 open right now. It's gonna be very interesting to see. It's gonna be very interesting to see if the market is surprisingly taking the bait from Trump making announcements, or not, and if it's enough to have a pre-FOMC rally up to the local highs or not. That would be very interesting. We'll see. Yeah, very interesting. It's gonna be fun to watch the next few hours to see if the market is taking the Trump bait or not, and if it's enough to break the H4 trend or not. It's gonna be very interesting. Okay, for Angelus, last chart request, and then I'm getting the fuck out because I have then 1 hour and 30 minutes to eat before going live with Tim tonight. If you want to join the stream, it's gonna be a space actually on Twitter. This reminds me of what I just discussed for ENA. Is it a failure to reclaim trend into retest of the lows? Or is it a bottoming process with daily downtrend flat in the middle and disrespected, while daily 100 MA catches down? Hard to tell. Hard to tell. But for now, the main things to see on this chart is that this asset has failed to hold daily trend. Wow, that was such a perfect short. I don't even, yeah. Yeah, Angelus, I think you can keep your focus on this region. That's confluence of H4 200 MA and H4 100 MA equals plus the horizontal H4 level equals must reclaim. Must reclaim meaning that obviously that you want to see price getting back above it. And if that's the case, you have an argument to aim for. Wow, that was, man, very clean chart. Very clean chart. We have another horizontal level over here. That will be my main point of view, Angelus, for RPL. It's a fight with the current level that's being retested right now. I would not blindly long it here because that would be a fight with H4 trend. But if it was to consolidate in this region right now, and eventually you get this defended plus H4 downtrend broken, I think you have an interesting gap fill to catch all the way back to this breakdown level. And at the opposite, if the lows are broken and the H4 trend is still acting as resistance, I think unfortunately, if you're long on that, it could come for a full retrace. That's my perspective on H4, but I think the main idea for me when I'm seeing a chart that looks like this is more on the daily perspective in terms of, am I interested to trade that? And as I said, for I think it was NI example again, this is the main thing that I would be expecting from something that looks like what you asked to me. Daily trends after a strong daily downtrend failed to be reclaimed. So it either comes with a full retrace back to the lows into some chop fests, either it means that we have downtrend continuation. So again, in the example of RPL, yeah, this is what I discussed earlier. This would be a possible outcome with daily trend like this in the middle, and daily 100 MA catching down with price while it's trying to bottom, let's say that way, and could look like this, for example. Otherwise, unfortunately for the asset, it's actually continuation of the daily downtrend, and in that case, that sucks balls. And I guess you can have this horizontal level as a must break, because if it's broken, I think you have a potential gap fill to daily 100 MA. However, as you can see with the squiggly, the longer it's gonna consolidate, the lower daily 100 MA is gonna be, the less interesting this gap is going to capture, the less appealing the setup is going to be. So for me, when I see a chart that looks like this, unless I caught a short in that week, I usually just pass, because I have a rule that says that whenever we have a strong trend and we have an attempt to break it, if it's not immediately respected, that means there is no trend, short term at least, and I should not be trading it. One of the good example of that has been the top on Bitcoin. As you can see on our swing long on Bitcoin, this daily trend break was the trigger to take some profits in December last year, because for the first time in that daily trend, we had daily trend and H4 200 and H4 200 EMA not being respected. Remember what I said at the beginning of the stream. We have trend broken. I expect two things. Fake out, obviously, or gap fills. And gap fills can either happen by price retracing to meet the moving averages, or by consolidating, and it's the moving averages that catches up with price. But basically for me, as soon as I start seeing signs of daily trend being disrespected, trend not necessarily daily, but being disrespected, I back off and I expect chop fest. So that's why this was a trigger to pay myself in December last year. And I was then expecting to either see daily 100 MA retested, either see some chop fest. In any cases, two situations where I'm not interested to have too much exposure anyway. And if we go back to the FPL chart that we just showed, we can see that we have strong daily downtrend. You know what? Let me just inverse the chart so that you can have an idea of what I'm discussing based on the example that I just gave you. We have daily trend that's finally disrespected after a big move up. Lost, reclaimed, constitute not being respected. Therefore, I'm either expecting a gap fill to 100 MA, either consolidation while it catches up. I think you can see by reversing the charts why I say that it's a similar thought process that I had for Bitcoin at the local top in December. It's just a rule that I have for myself and that I try to respect, and we can see it with my analysis on Bitcoin H4 that we discussed through the stream. H4 trend finally lost, not respected, I back off and I wait for the gap fill to 100 MA or some jump fest. It's important to keep in mind that 90%, 99% of the trades I take are all the same. I always have the same analysis. I always have the same approach. Ask any other member. I can be extremely repetitive and spamming a lot, but I believe it's the only way to get things printed in your brain. But yeah, sorry, I should have gone 25 minutes ago, so I'm just gonna shut the stream off. But I think we discussed a lot of very important things today. If you stayed all the way through, I think you've got a good taste of the way I'm seeing market short terms and going into tomorrow, and the way I'm scanning and charting things and planning setups. You also had a good taste of the kind of content that I work in the oven. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish the stream with some chilling of the oven. Obviously, if you're interested, if you want to see more of the content that I do, and if you feel like you can be interested, you can have access to a link on my Twitter page and see if that things that could be interesting to you. Obviously, I'm not the only one in the oven. We are five other analysts. We all have our channel, sorry. But yeah, if that's something that can interest you, don't hesitate to check. If you don't want to, as usual, you can always just join the public streams. You can follow on Twitter. I'm a little bit less active on Twitter, but I am pretty much active on Telegram. If you wanna check the public channel, I share some pretty detailed updates over there. I don't do so every day, but I try to do so when I can and when there are significant things happening. So don't hesitate to join. Also, I will be sharing these charts requests that we did today in the channel if you want to have access to them. So I will send you the link right now of the Telegram if you're not there already. If you want to join, I will put it in the chat. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. That was a very good stream. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, do not hesitate to leave a comment on Twitter or whatever. Give me your feedbacks. Anyway, don't hesitate. Yeah, thanks everyone. Lol, cheers for the stream. Go eat and good night. Yeah, I'm going to go eat, and I'm going back live in 1 hour and 30 minutes. Again, if you haven't heard me enough today, I will give a retweet to the event, to the space I'm going later today, if you want to check. Anyway, I'm leaving. Have a good day. Have a good rest of the day. Again, keep a close eye on the Bitcoin H4 fight. H4 trend must reclaim. H4 100 MA must hold. And compression in between going into going into FOMC tomorrow. That's the main focus to keep in mind short term. And yeah, good luck, have fun, take care, don't get